Hi, and thanks for tuning in to today's video about the conservation project in New Zealand you may not have heard of. Today we're going to be talking about seabirds and why they're so important. For a background, I'll link to a page on the website which talks in detail about why we think seabirds are so important to the restoration of this island. I'm here in midwinter at the little sooty shearwater colony that we have. Here's burrow number 7 right here, and it goes in here and around to here, and the nesting chamber is in there, and it's only a couple of inches below the surface. You can actually feel the ground flexing in here under the plywood. We've got a little camera, or will have, which can record what's going on in the nesting box. Over here is another one here, and this one's interesting because it comes like this, right in close to the other one. In fact, they may even be interconnected. Now, we're delighted to have sooty shearwater here, but they're not necessarily the one that is going to increase in population the fastest and turn this island back into the seabird island that it once was. That's because sooties are almost at a range limit in Cook Strait here, and there are other islands nearby where they've been made predator free as well as this one, and the sooty populations are only recovering very, very slowly. The sooties are not a bird that you see in Cook Strait extremely commonly. The common ones that you see are the littler birds that would have been wiped out here by the rats from about the 1880s onwards. The sooties, big feisty birds, they would have persisted until quite recently because they can fight off a rat under most circumstances. Of course, the chicks, when unattended in the burrows, they wouldn't have been able to survive a rat or indeed a weka, and so the colony, when we started the project, was probably functionally extinct. That's changing, and it's coming along quite nicely, but as I say, sooties are not the bird we would choose to make the thing improve quickly. Those birds are the littler ones like fluttering shearwaters, fairy prion, diving petrel, and over to the north of us on Takapurewa, there's a couple of million fairy prions still. So we're not talking about seabirds that are endangered as such, because they do breed and persist on offshore islands that are predator free very well. But they ought to be on the mainland as well, and they're not. They were wiped out to all intents and purposes quite some time ago by rats, cats, pigs, people, and wouldn't it be great if the mainland did have seabirds, burrow nesting seabirds again? Why burrow nesters for this island? It's explained more comprehensively in the website article, but they're bringing nutrients in from the sea when they come in and overnight feed their chicks. They poo everywhere, they bring food, expire and rot here. They dig in the ground and create habitat for invertebrates and lizards and things. They alter the soil structure by their burrowing. The trees become unstable. The tree composition probably changes. So the colony's a bit spotty, but generally pretty good, but just growing slowly. Today, if you watch till the end, I'm going to share something about what we're trying to do to get some of the smaller, commoner birds back, which will really get the thing moving more quickly. Let's go over to the new site now. What, I've brought you all this way to look at a solar panel. I thought we were talking about birds today. The problem with burrow nesting seabirds is that they're very loyal to the colony that they fledge from, and so it's very hard to establish new colonies. There's only a certain percentage of the animals are prone to dispersal, and we need to find a way of capturing that small percentage so that we can get a new colony going. Hence the solar panel, which is driving a box of electronics, which I'll show you a little bit later, driving those big speakers behind me. They boom out at night into Cook Strait, and the aspect here is similar to a colony that fluttering shearwaters do breed in on one of the other islands nearby. That's why we've chosen this site. In addition to broadcasting the calls at night to attract them in, the birds come in at dusk, stay on land, and then leave at first light. So we want something that'll play during the night to call them in. And I'll show you in a second, we've also got some decoys which will try to add to the attractiveness of this site. Let's have a look under the solar panel and see how this thing ticks. Over here is a big lead acid battery, which is obviously what the solar panel is charging up. And here's the box of electronics. We'll pull it out and have a look, see what's in there. We start with the little charge controller for the solar panel. So that's harvesting the energy off of the solar panel and pumping it into the battery. And it has a 12 volt output here, which powers the other materials in here. We've got an enormous amplifier to drive the speakers down the hill. In here is a microprocessor which receives information from the charge controller as to what the solar panel is doing at the time. So because these birds come in at night, we want to attract them at night and play the calls at night only, rather than all the time, because that would just flatten the battery and we'd always be replacing batteries, which is quite expensive. When the voltage off of the solar panel drops to zero, these little thin wires here are feeding information into here, and when the voltage is zero, after some checks and so on, it will play whatever's on that SD card that's in there. And then when in the morning the solar panel gets going again and the voltage rises above zero, the microprocessor will turn off the SD card. I've modified it slightly by putting this little timer in here, and so it only runs for 2 or 3 hours a night at the moment. We find that helps preserve the batteries a little bit better than running the thing all night. Please don't be tempted to start one of these things up for yourself. It's really only appropriate to deploy these devices on predator-free locations. If on the mainland you get all enthusiastic and think, oh, I know, I'll call in some seabirds, you'd feel pretty bad if they got munched, wouldn't you? And that's what can and has happened when these things are deployed where there are predators present. These decoys started out as a wooden carving made by Richard de Hamel over on the mainland. He carved the wooden likeness from life and then made fiberglass moulds, and the fiberglass moulds were used to make these decoys with polyester filler, also known as builder's bog. The two halves were stuck together and they're painted up. So we've got the speakers and we've got the visual cue to try and attract these birds. The speakers are broadcasting mostly fluttering shearwater, but also diving petrels. On site here we've got some starter burrows with little Novacoil plastic entrances so that the birds can crawl up their tunnel, and a nesting chamber which is under an inspection hatch which we've made out of timber. Looks like someone's visited, doesn't it? There's quite a lot of fresh poo on the surface. Let's see if we can see anything going on here. That's quite extraordinary. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon now, and I don't know why that bird is ashore. Perhaps any seabird scientists that see this would like to leave the answer in the comments below, please. We've got quite a lot of footage of fluttering shearwaters and also diving petrels visiting the site over the last few months, and for the last 6 weeks probably that fluttering shearwater, or indeed the pair, I don't know if it's a pair or not, have been coming to that burrow, and they've been making a nest. They've brought in lots of material into the back of the burrow, and the birds sitting on it at the moment. They won't lay until spring if they're going to, but what an extraordinarily promising start this is. And this is what happened the following evening, one day later. Now, I don't know if that is a pair or just another bird looking at a burrow that's already occupied, but I know from the sooties that they can be a bit snarky with one another when they get together after a few months. So, who knows? We shall see. Let's hope there's a part 2 to this. I have a request of you, and that's if you feel inclined to come and visit the island for yourself, please don't. Rats and mice and invasive ants and all sorts of things can get ashore from boats and in people's gear. And they do. If these things got ashore here, it would be a disaster for the birds and lizards and invertebrates and trees and things that we're working so hard to restore out here. Not to mention extremely expensive to fix. Hopefully these videos will take the place of a visit on your behalf. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you for part 2.